And welcome back to another Quest Bite. Glad you could join us, and hopefully you're having fun with the rest of the series. My name is Brandon Adkins. I'm one of the application engineers with Quest Integration, and we've got some really fun stuff planned for you here today. We've been doing a little snippets in this series of Ask an Engineer, so we're going to talk to folks that are in STEM-related careers and activities and kind of see what got them into that field and what keeps them passionate about it. So should be a lot of fun for us. We've got a special guest today who I'll introduce in just a moment. You're going to see him on the next slide as we play our game for today. So typically you'll see the Quest logo and Spot the Quapple, your guys' favorite game. We're going to change it up a little bit here. There's some differences in these pictures, and I want to see if you can spot them with our special guest there. So I'll give you 30 seconds on the clock. Go ahead and get started, and we'll see if you can spot all the differences there. Look around. Some of them are pretty tricky, and some may be a little bit familiar to you. Got about 20 seconds left. I'll give you a hint as you're going. There's 5 differences in these pictures. 5 seconds left. All right, timer stopped. Let's see if you found all of the differences. Give you the answer here. There we go. Some color changes, a couple of logo swaps. Hopefully you guys are having some fun with spotting the quapple, spotting differences. Always a lot of fun there. Now, in the pictures that you see, that's our special guest. We'll get to know him here in just a moment, but you can see all of this technology around him that he's able to use to design the interesting and awesome products and stuff that we're going to talk about today. So let me introduce our special guest, a guy that I've known for a long time, Mr. Kevin Falk. He is an industrial designer, and we're going to get to know a little bit about what he does. Kevin, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So Kevin, like I said, I've known you for quite a while now, and it's always fun for me to hear about what's new that you're working on, and even some of the stuff that you've worked on in the past. You've got a lot of interesting stories to tell, and a lot of passion behind it. So I want to start with just having you tell us a little bit about what you do. Your title is industrial and product designer, right?
Correct.
Excellent. And what does that actually mean? I'm sure there's a lot of folks in the audience that don't really know what an industrial designer does. Can you explain it a bit?
Well, basically, I'm not an engineer per se, but I did go to school and got a degree in product industrial design. And I did that about 35 years ago. I attended the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. And so I got a degree in product industrial design, and you can go off to different tangents and focus on many different things. And I chose the product design route. And in my career, I've designed everything from laser printers, which you see behind me. I worked at HP for 27 years, and I've designed things from marinas in Seattle, Washington. And just right now, I currently work on motorcycle clothing. So it's given me the opportunity to do many, many things.
Excellent. A lot of cool stuff you've gotten to work on. You've told me in depth about some of them, and we're going to give the audience a little bit of a chance to kind of get to know some of those things as well. So we'll talk about that. Um, Kevin, if you had to say, what really led you into the field of industrial and product design?
Well, at first, I'd never even heard of it. I started off at school at Boise State, and I was a graphic designer, illustrator. That was my major. I was just going to be an artist. I've always drawn and kind of created things in my mind. But then I heard about industrial product design. I said, this is cool. And so that's when like I said, I went and got my degree and studied there 4 years. And my first job, I was at Boeing, working at Boeing aircraft facility there.
Nice. Got to work on some airplanes. We've talked to a few folks that have been involved with either piloting or working on airplanes, so that's awesome. There's plenty of that to share around the community. Um, some of the things that I've gotten familiar with that you've worked on, I see a lot of examples there in the background. You talked about the HP printers. You used to work there and do some industrial design for that. As we're getting to know what an industrial designer does, what types of things are you working on for designing a printer, for example?
As you see behind me, there's a lot of the cosmetic skins behind me, and just all and the functionality too. So it's not just pure physical things. A designer can do some of the user interfaces. I had to make sure that the doors open correctly and all those things. So it's complete use of the product and make it really understandable and good for the customer.
Yeah, excellent. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people can learn on this session here today is you think about the things that you use each and every day, a printer that you've got at home, your toothbrush, things in your vehicle. A lot of that stuff comes from the mind of an industrial designer, right?
Correct.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring up a quick slide here too. I see an example of one of the projects that I know you're super passionate about, and we've gotten to talk a lot about in the past. There's a leg standing up behind you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, just another brief history about myself. I was a motorcycle rider, had a nice Harley Davidson, and back in 2008, I had a motorcycle accident. I ended up losing my leg below the knee. And so ever since then, I've had some really cool, innovative prosthetic legs. And this is just one of them that I have. I got one that I'm currently wearing now, my day-to-day leg. But this is kind of my new passion of designing things. I don't design the actual prosthetic itself, but I have been having a good time and working with some other folks. I do the cosmetic decorative covers. And here is one of the covers I worked with Bespoke, a company that was in San Francisco. And this is my leg covering that goes over the top of this. And so when I go to the Boise State football games, I'm an avid fan. This is my game day leg. And so it's kind of fun to illuminate my leg and walk around. It's kind of practical too, that it lights up the walkway in front of me, but it grabs a lot of attention too, in a good way.
That is super cool. And you get to take some pride in the prosthetic and show your creativity. And that's always fun to see what new designs and stuff you're working on. So I'm glad you got to share that one with the folks here on QuestBite. I'll bring up the other slide too. Kevin sent me over some examples of other versions of the prosthetic covers that he's worked on. So you see some examples here of just, different designs. If you want to make it creative and make it beautiful, there's lots of examples of that. So I see like wood grain, and it looks like maybe some kind of leather looking appearances and metal. Tell us a bit about some of those that you worked on, Kevin.
And so those were fun. It was my first attempt to do some really organic shapes. And so we scanned my leg in, and then I started creating these possibilities. And I did them in SolidWorks. Then I rendered in a program called KeyShot. But it was really a fun way to kind of see what I was looking for and try to explain my ideas to others.
That's excellent. A great example of creativity and kind of working that into something that's, a passion and something that's very important in your life. And I understand that you've gotten to help a lot of other individuals with their prosthetics and kind of show their creativity as well, right?
Correct. No, if anybody comes up and wants help, an arm, a leg, or even something for a wheelchair, I'm glad to help out. And with the technologies we have now to print things out, it's pretty neat that we can help solve their problems.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's one other project that I think I want to talk about here. When we were talking about this before, I asked you what your favorite project was that you ever worked on. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
All the projects I work on are really kind of fun in their own unique way. But when I graduated, I went up to Seattle and I worked for Boeing, and an opportunity came up to design the interior of Air Force One, the president's plane. And so that's probably one of the most notable projects that I had the opportunity to work on. And so I designed everything on the interior with another design team members. We did things, and I did the senior White House staff room. I designed the handrail that goes down the president's plane. And then when the president opens the door, there's a presidential seal. It's a round seal up on the door. I sculpted that out of clay. And so I had a really neat experiences, and it's cool to see that still flying now, and said I was a part of that.
Very cool. And I've got a image up here too of the interior that you're talking about. So you got to work on this and design some aspects of it many years ago. And the seal that Kevin was talking about, you can actually see right behind the president there behind his desk. So very cool example. I'm sure that was a lot of fun to work on. Now, Kevin, a lot of the engineers and designers that I get to talk to on a regular basis, if you're working on projects for the president or the military, things like that, you really don't get to talk too much about them, right?
No, and this is a very secretive project. Still can't talk a lot about it. And I never actually got on the actual plane. I never did. It was all what I see through the media and stuff now. And so even my current project's design, you design something, and it's got to been held quiet until the project's released. And so you're excited that you work on something, but you have to wait until the right time to be released or to be sold.
Yeah. And that's something that we've learned on other Quest Bite episodes too, is you get to do a lot of cool stuff as an engineer and as a designer. You get to solve people's problems and make the world a better place, but a lot of times you're not really in the spotlight. You don't get a ton of credit for working on some of those projects. And I think that's one of those things that you want to think about, right? Making those choices to help someone solve a problem, it's the right thing to do. It's something that helps you get passionate about what it is you're doing. But at the same time, you're not always going to get the spotlight for everything. So
That's okay.
yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about a couple of things that you work with today as well as over the years. What tools do you use right now for designing some of the things that you work on?
Well, like I said, I've been doing this for about 35 years now, so quite a long time. And back 35 years ago, there weren't these things like iPads and all these technologies and things we have. I can sit and sketch and draw and create things. Even this iPad, I can connect my 3D scanner and scan things. So you look back at Air Force One, every drawing I did for that was on paper and done with a pencil. And so there was no technology, computers at that time. And so it's pretty amazing what all has evolved for the technology and being a designer. And so it's kind of cool, all the tools we have to create things now.
Yeah. And I'm sure that involves an incredible amount of skill, just a project that massive to do it all on pen and paper with the tools that we have now. I mean, it's hard to even imagine what that would have been like. For tools that you have today, I know you talked about 3D scanning, 3D printing. Give us a scope of kind of what your tool set looks like right now.
I never thought 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, that I would have 2 3D printers in my home now. Incredible, nice workstations, printers, all these tools that I'm able to start a project from the very beginning, from hand sketches on paper and pencil, however I do it, to able to make working prototypes. And so it's really kind of amazing the opportunities and potential we have to create a project.
Absolutely. Some of my favorite tools to use, I think we can agree on this, right? Designing in SolidWorks and using 3D printers, it's all super fun, super technical stuff. But you and I talked before about some combinations of tools that you use, old versus new. So it's possible for you to sort of start things in a pen and paper sketch if you wanted to, and then bring that into a modern tool. What does that look like for you today?
I still do. A lot of times I don't have a computer with me, but I still want to, my mind's always thinking, so I'll just grab a piece of paper and pencil and sketch my ideas down. And then you can scan that in and bring that over to SolidWorks and bring it to any other program, and then start generating your 3D or your other graphic elements. And so whatever works for you to get your ideas down. I know the new tools have a lot of templates and things, but I also know that I went to about 7 years of school and Boise State Art Center, but you still need to understand design, proportions, and perspective, all these things that you still need to learn to be a good designer. Sure, there's the tools out there and the templates, but you need to know how to bring them all into place and to present them and do the complete, all aspects of the project.
Absolutely. Get some hands-on experience and kind of, train yourself as you go. Figure out how that works. Absolutely. Okay. One last question I kind of want to wrap things up with here. You've gotten to share a lot of really cool experiences and talk about some projects, and we always appreciate that. The one thing I want to leave our audience with, Kevin, if you had to give one piece of advice for any kids in the audience that wanted to pursue their passion for design, whether that's their career or just kind of keeping that passion alive, what advice would you give them today?
I've always been an artist designer, and that's how where I got my kudos and the pat on my back. So I knew that was something I need to pursue. I didn't know exactly where or how I was going to pursue it. But as I went through college and I found more things out and learned about more things, I just kind of ventured into the things where I did have passion for, and it just evolved. I know we can take all these different career paths, and that's okay. You might switch or come back or do something different, but just have a passion and love for whatever you decide doing and how you're doing it, and things will work out fine.
Absolutely. That's good advice. I'll keep the session going here for just a moment. If any of you guys have questions for Kevin that you'd like to ask here on Facebook, feel free to type those in the comments, and I'll read those off so that Kevin can interact with you guys if you do have questions. But really fun stuff. Kevin, I appreciate you coming on the show and just talking about your experiences and sharing a little bit of your passion. Thanks a lot for coming on here today.
No, thank you. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. So I'll keep an eye on the comments there. Anything that you guys want to do, like Kevin said, it's pursuing that passion and putting it into practice. If it's you want to get artistic and practice with pencil and paper, that's great. You also have technology all around you, things like iPads, computers, 3D printers, 3D scanners, all this stuff that we're talking about that helps you to take those ideas that you have and bring them into reality. It's a lot of fun to do that. Make something with your hands and use the technology to do that. So we do have a question here. Kevin, what's something you've 3D printed for use at home? Do you have any examples of that?
I've printed light switches. I've printed extensions to my rain gutter to make them look better. Boxes that I don't like to see that look a different way. Pretty much anything. I've even scanned my wife in here, and I printed her bust and face out. And so these are just some of the things. It's just fun technology. So I print a lot of things at home.
Very nice. We get two special guests today, Kevin and his wife. That's awesome. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in right now. Thanks again, Kevin. We appreciate it. We'll go ahead and give you guys a quick preview for tomorrow's episode. So Corinne's going to be back with you guys. We'll do a little bit of a science lesson on this one. So you get to learn about trees and plants and actually how leaves are breathing. If you didn't know that, leaves are actually a living, breathing thing. So you'll get to learn a little bit more about that on tomorrow's Quest Bite. Thanks again for joining us. And Kevin, thanks again for your time.
Bye. Thanks, guys.